Previously on the 2020 NFL season review. We talked about the Philadelphia Eagles and how a really bad season by both Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson got the former benched and traded to the Colts, and the latter being fired. With a new head coach and a new quarterback in Jalen Hurts, we don't know how the Eagles would project, but since they're in the NFC East, anything is possible. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the 2020 season of the Detroit Lions. Yo, what's going on everybody? Thanks for tuning back into this series. This is episode 7 where we'll be talking about the Detroit Lions. But of course, before we get into that, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at SportsPodCasually to keep up with things I do outside of YouTube. And as always, make sure to leave a like on this video, share with a friend or just about anybody, and subscribe to the channel so you wouldn't miss when the next episode drops. And with all of that out the way, let's get into episode 7, the 2020 season of the Detroit Lions. The Lions have been in the trenches for numerous decades, man. The last playoff win came in 1991, and that was 30 years ago. If you want to know just how long that was, here's a picture of me in 1991. Anyway, they were looking to improve on their 3-12-1 record from the prior season, with their third-year head coach, another failed Bill Belichick prodigy, and if reports are correct, an all-around asshole in Matt Patricia. But at least they still had Matthew Stafford. So maybe if he could pull off more comebacks like he always does, and if Patricia could be slightly competent, maybe they'll do well this season. But that was not to be, as good things never really are that easy for the Lions. In the offseason, the Lions lost a number of starters from the season prior to free agency, like Graham Glasgow, Devon Kennard, and Ashawn Robinson. In terms of signings, they used the cap space they had to fill out the holes they had on their roster. They gave big money deals to, I can't pronounce his first name, Vitae, Jamie Collins, and they also signed future Hall of Fame running back Adrian Peterson. They also traded away their star corner, big play Darius Slade, to the Eagles for a 3rd and 5th round pick. He was a 2nd round pick for the Lions back in 2013, and he became a 3-time Pro Bowler and one of the best corners in the league. Coming into the 2020 draft, the Lions had the 3rd overall pick, which they used to draft Jeff Okudah, the corner out of the Ohio State University. He didn't have the best rookie season, and him missing 7 games didn't really help. Luckily for the Lions, the rest of the draft class was pretty solid. They got good contributions from DeAndre Swift, John Penei Sewell, and Jonah Jackson. In June, Lions principal owner Martha Firestone Ford, which is a badass name by the way, announced that she would be stepping down and passing ownership to her daughter, Sheila Ford Ham. A less of a badass name. The Lions had 3 players opt out of the 2020 season. This included recent signing wide receiver Geronimo Allison. Unfortunately for the Lions, they had to play all their home games this season behind closed doors. The season got off to a rough start for the Lions as they lost back-to-back division games versus the Bears and Packers respectively. But by week 7, things were looking good for them. They strung together back-to-back wins and now they were 3-3. But much like the title of the book I had to read for literature, things fall apart. More specifically, their defense totally collapsed as they couldn't cover a corpse with a blanket. For the last 10 games, the Lion defense gave up 30 or more points a total of 8 times, not to mention giving up 40 or more points 4 of those times. Following their Thanksgiving loss to the Texans of all teams. the front office finally pulled the plug on the Matt Patricia experiment. He finished with a 13-29-1 record with the Lions and finished last in the NFC North in both of his full seasons with the team. Bring back Jim Caldwell. Also given their walking papers was the Lions general manager Bob Quinn, who was, surprise surprise, another New England guy. He's been their GM since 2016 and was the one responsible for firing Jim Caldwell in the first place, just so he could hire his buddy. So yeah, fuck that guy too. The Lions promoted offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell to be their new interim head coach. However, the firing came too late as the Lions finished this season 5-11, losing 8 of their last 10 games. In Week 15, after losing to the Titans, they were officially eliminated from playoff contention for the 4th season in a row. But this defense was just god-awful, man. By the time the season ended, it became the franchise worst, and one of the worst defenses in NFL history. They set franchise records for points and yards allowed in a season, which was even worse than their 2008 season, and they went winless in that season. They finished last in the NFC North for the 3rd straight year. The Lions had 3 total players who received Pro Bowl honors: tight end TJ Hawkinson, center Frank Ragnow, and rookie punter Jack Fox. Let's look at the stats for the Lions this season. When you get to the overall offense, they were 27th in the league. They were 20th in points and total yards, 10th in passing yards, but were 30th in the league in rushing yards. And that would happen when you have a running back in his late 30s as your lead back. But nothing really stands out as totally impressive on this offense. No surprise there. And speaking of no surprises, their overall defense ranked last in the league. I mean, dog, just look at this. Last in points, last in total yards, last in passing touchdowns allowed, last in rushing touchdowns allowed, 30th in interceptions and passing yards allowed. Their best stat was being tied for 26th in sacks. That's it. God, I don't have words to describe how bad this defense was. When you go to the advanced stats on offense, they did a decent job converting. I mean, with Matt Stafford, he has a natural habit of making something out of nothing, as he had to do a lot of times. And they were 9th in red zone touchdown percentage. At least, they were efficient when they got into the red zone. When you look at the advanced stats on defense now, as we expect, just bad. 32nd in pressures, 28th in missed tackles and hurry percentage, and 25th in blitz percentage. Just horrendous. Like, I knew the Lions defense was bad, don't get me wrong. But like, looking at these stats now and where they rank in the league, I did not know it was NFL historically bad. Wow. But now to some brighter news. Let's get into the offensive and defensive MVPs for the team. Starting as always on offense, where I'm going to give it to wide receiver Marvin Jones Jr. Jones Jr. had his first healthy season since 2017, and it was good to see him ball out again. He was close to having his second 1,000 receiving yards season, and he really stepped up for the Lions and became Stafford's go-to guy again this season. He was tied for 10th in the league in receiving touchdowns. Now on to the defensive MVP, where I was going to give it to nobody, but I decided to give it to Romeo Okwara, defensive end. He was the only choice since this defense was just so atrocious. He bounced back from having a down season last year to have a career year. He set new career highs in every single statistical category except passes defended. He was 10th in the league in sacks, and he was also one of 17 players to record a safety this season. After cleaning house of their old coaching staff, the Lions hired a total of 12 new coaches this season. Some of the most notable of these hires are defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who served as a defensive backs coach for the Saints for 4 years. offensive coordinator Anthony Lynn, former head coach for the Chargers who was recently fired and overall very good guy. And the new head coach Dan Campbell, who previously served as an assistant head coach and tight end coach for the Saints for the last 4 years. He then gave a press conference about biting kneecaps, which was equal parts hilarious and badass. They also hired Brad Holmes to be their new general manager and executive vice president. He spent 17 years with the Rams organization. His most recent position was their director of college scouting, which he did for the last 4 years. The Lions entered free agency with $19 million in cap space to work with. They were able to roll over almost $18 million from last season. They lost a lot of key players due to free agency, such as wide receivers Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay, and linebacker Gerard Davis. In terms of signings, the Lions signed most of their free agents to cheap one-year deals, but they did give big deals to Jamal Williams, Tyrell Williams, and they also re-signed Romeo Okwara. However, the biggest news in the offseason came in the middle of free agency when they traded their longtime franchise quarterback Matt Stafford to the Rams for their quarterback Jared Goff, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2022 and 2023 first-round pick. This brings Stafford's 12-year career with the Lions to a close. He was their first overall pick in 2009 after they went winless in 2008 and did his absolute best to drag the Lions out of the pits of despair. However, it was always easier said than done. He managed 1 Pro Bowl, 1 Comeback Player of the Year, and 3 playoff appearances. However, none of them ended up with wins. And he leaves as the Lions' all-time leader in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and fourth quarter comebacks. He was also second in all-time games played for the Lions. But that's just scratching the surface of the records he holds for the organization. So I'll just leave a link to all of them in the description below. The Lions entered the 2021 NFL Draft with the 7th overall pick. I personally wanted them to draft a wide receiver like Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, or Jalen Waddle. But with Chase and Waddle already off the board, they decided to draft Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman out of Oregon, who was the highest rated O-lineman in the draft. They used their other draft picks to address their defensive side of the ball, as they should, but they did address the wide receiver position in the 4th round. So it's clear that the Lions are in a total rebuild. I mean, new GM, new head coach, new quarterback, new overall coaching staff to begin with. And not to mention, they now have 2 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts coming up. I do like that Jared Goff is here. I mean, he does get a lot of rap for not being that good, but he has a good offensive line. He has absolutely no pressure to win games. And if he balls out with this wide receiver core, then he raises his values and the Lions could flip him next year, but that's only if he balls out. He's still on a pretty big contract. He also makes a good transition quarterback for any rookie QB that they'll want to draft next season or the season after that. But with all that being said, I don't think they'll be winning a lot of games this season. This roster is nothing really to write home about, nothing really special. They're in a rebuild, a lot of young guys. I think that they just need to focus on improving their young guys, especially the guys on their defensive side. But guys, that brings us to the end of episode 7. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Like always, make sure to like the video, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel. Episode 8 will be coming out next week, and you don't want to miss it. A banger. Trust me, it's going to be great. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching the video. You all take care. I'll see you all next time.